coming to you once again, talking about things about dogs that relate to life, and we're in this series on types of dogs. You know, we covered pups, and then we covered pup trainers, and had a lot of views on pup trainers. I was amazed. I guess there's a lot of grandparents out there that want to make sure their kids saw that. So I hope my kids saw it. None of them commented. Maybe they didn't like it. I don't know. But anyhow, this today's topic, we didn't get it shot during the day, so it's actually at night. But I got busy today. But this is one of the ones that I'm most passionate about. We're going to talk about the started dog. And this probably will take longer than one particular video. So this may be a two-part or possibly a three-part. I don't want to make a long video that you may lose interest in, so we'll try to keep it on track. But started dogs, you know, started dogs are the specialty of Beagles on Fire, and it's what really put us on the map. I didn't start out seeking and planning and having the smarts to figure out that there was a niche there, but I just kind of fell into it. And when I first got started, of course, I had 4 Beagles and did the first season with 4 Beagles, bought a few puppies and wanted to see the process of going through and finishing a dog out. And so I bought a pup, and that was Hunter. If you've looked at my website, you've seen one that says Home of Hunter the Retrieving Beagle. And that was my first pup to ever own. And I sent it to a starting pen because I didn't have one of my own, and got it out of the starting pen and worked through that whole thing there. And had no idea that from that I would go on to be known as the guy with started dogs. I'm not tooting my own horn about any of it, but if you search the internet, you won't find anybody at this time that is doing started dogs on any kind of a scale. And I know why that is. It's because it's a lot of work, and you have to be fortunate enough to have the right facilities and a job that will allow you to do that, because starting dogs takes a lot of time, takes a lot of patience. And it just, you just got to have the right things to come together. But it's a process that you have to go through to start a dog. So, you know, started dogs, typically we think of young dogs, and most of the time that's true. I like to start my dogs, and everybody has a different opinion on this particular subject, but I like to start my dogs if all the things line up right. And you said, what are you talking about lining up right? Well, I own my own training pens, but sometimes there's other dogs in there. So I like to put them in at 4 months old, okay? Every dog's different, but I have found that for my dogs at 4 months old, especially if I have took them as pups and shown them some rabbits and things and got them fired up, if I put them in there at 4 months old with the pup trainers, then usually within 2 weeks to 3 weeks, they will be started in the starting pen. Now, that doesn't mean they are started and ready to sell at that moment. They're just rough started in the starting pen. And you remember we talked about different things when we were talking about, you know, the puppies, and we talked about how different things occur to create that situation. Like they got to be bred right, and different things like that. And so I'm not saying that you're wrong if you want to start your pups later, but remember what I said in the puppy segment. If you haven't seen that video, go back and watch that very first one in this series. I feel like that pups learn more in the first 6 months of their life than they do the entire rest of their life. So while they're in that process of learning, I like to put them in the starting pen. I know some guys are like, well, I like to start mine at 9 months. I like to start mine at 12 months. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. All I can say is, to me, my personal opinion, you're wasting a lot of time that you could be running them rabbits with them dogs. I mean, I have took dogs out, and we've actually hunted and killed rabbits with 5-month-old pups before. Now, you know, they're not going to be the same as a 2-year-old dog, but they're 5 months old. So a started dog, you know, there's a lot of things come into play with a started dog, and I can ramble on for a long time about started dogs. But I first of all want to describe what I think is a started dog. A started dog for me, if you get one from my kennel, is not a dog that I just pulled out of the training pen yesterday and we're calling it started. Oh, he's went on a couple of races. He's went a few yards on a rabbit. He's barked a few times. That's not a started dog, in my opinion. What my standard for a started dog is one that is out there hunting in the wild. If you come here, you'll be shown dogs in the wild, not in a training pen. You'll be shown dogs in the wild running with 1 to 2 finished dogs. They will hunt on their own. They will pack up. They will stay in the races. They will be trained with the shock collar, and they will know to come to the tone button and be loaded up at the tailgate. When I have a dog that's ready to go, that's a started dog, I don't want you to come here and see something that we have to chase around and take forever to catch it. When you watch some of my videos, you'll see some dogs in there every now and then that you'll see, what is that hanging off of that dog? That's a tagline. If you see a little rope or string hanging on the dog, it's a tagline. You say, well, David, what are you using the tagline for? That's a dog that I'm having a little trouble catching. And some of these dogs will come up to you and they'll get close. The most aggravating thing with a young dog is having one that's right there and you reach down to get it and it moves away. It'll let you get within 2, 3, 5 feet of it, but it keeps running away from you. If you're having that problem, if you will add a tagline to the dog's collar, I make mine 10, 12 feet, 15 feet long if I need to, usually about 10 feet. And I make it out of, some people use weed eater string. I used to be in the tree business, so I use throw ball line, which is just a smooth line. I tie a bowline in it and loop it through and pull it tight on the dog's collar. And then it can go through all the stuff and not get caught up. If you use like a 3-strand rope or something like that, it could get caught on stuff and then your dog's caught and hung up in something. You want something that will ease through everything. Another thing that would work would be if you've seen these cables that people tie their dogs out on that have the clear plastic coating on it, that would work good too. I used the throw ball line because what I had. And I will not sell a dog that I'm having to put a throw ball or a tagline on. I will only use that in my training method. And what happens is, as I get there and I step on the line and pull the dog to me while toning it, the dog learns to come to me. And when I can catch that dog 3 days in a row, 3 times that I go out, without having to use the tagline, then at that point I take it off. That's just I'm not saying that's gospel, that's just David's way of doing it, okay? So that's how I do that. But the unique thing about a started dog is a lot of people, like I said, don't think you can get one running at such a young age. But if you don't try, you'll never get there. I'm going to use the word start a whole lot during this particular segment of the series because we're talking about started dogs. And you know, that brings me to the first application that we can think of with started dogs is related to us. This is very profound. You're going to be blown away by this great, wonderful brain wave that went through my head. If you don't start something, you will never finish it. That's just like, wow, I know that blew your mind. But it's so true. Sometimes the most simple things are the most truthful things. If you don't start something, you'll never finish it. There's a lot of times when we miss out on opportunities because we won't start. We mean to start, we wanted to start, but we never started, so therefore it never got completed. Then there's people that start something and then they still don't complete it. How many times have you known somebody that got started? He started building his house, or he started a business, but then it didn't really ever get off the ground because he didn't see it through. See, when people are trying to start dogs, what happens is a lot of them realize, hey, this ain't that easy. So everybody wants instant. You know, we want instant grits, instant coffee, instant tea, instant everything. We're a world of instant. And guys in the beagle world, they want an instant rabbit dog, just like that. You know, I do some training in my training pens for the public as far as starting dogs. And the biggest problem that you have is people want to not do anything to their dogs, in most instances, They want to bring them to your starting pen, and you're supposed to be the beagle god that can wave your magic wand over this dog, and in 2 weeks, he's burning and going. Well, it don't always work that way. When you put the dogs in the training pen, some guys have got this thing where you ought to be walking around with them. You ought to be seeing every time they do something. You can't do that. And when you're walking around with them, you're actually at times creating more of a problem than you're helping. And you say, well, what do you mean? Well, there's a couple things that young dog needs to get to. Number one, he needs to learn to be independent of you, meaning he doesn't need to be worried about where you are and constantly following you around. Because if he's constantly following you around, he's not going to want to go with those other dogs and run a rabbit. He's going to want to come, where's daddy, where's daddy? When you have the training pen and they're put in there and you leave them, they're going to go with the other dogs. Now, they might just start following the other dogs, but pretty soon, the excitement of all that is going to cause them to want to get involved. And you know, in life, if you're doing something and you start something and it becomes something that's got some excitement to it, you'll find that others will have a desire to be involved in that excitement. If you're a person that's always trying to, just go out here and do things with no excitement, don't expect anybody to be drawn to you. People are drawn to passion. People are drawn to excitement. And, if you're passionate about running dogs, it'll show. It's not a drudgery. You love to go do it. So there's a couple things that apply to the dog that apply to us. Number one, if you don't start something, you won't finish it. Number two, if you start it and then walk away from it, it will go backwards. Okay? Some guys have took started dogs and they were running real good. They came here and got the dog. They bought the dog. And then they went and set the dog up. And the dog sometimes can go backwards. Not always. Every dog's different. But this whole deal is a process. There's timing. Not every dog's ready to start at 4 months old. So I try to put them in at 4 months old, and what keeps me from doing that sometimes can be I've got other dogs in the training pen. I can't get them in there that quick. Or they turn 4 months old in July, and it's absolutely too hot to start the dogs in the training pen. So they might have to be a little later in life. But when I put them in there at a young age, they usually come out. But I have to be patient. Remember, we talked about patience and different things like that in the series before. I have to be patient. You say, well, David, what do you do if you got a dog that won't start and it's 4 months old, 5 months old? I keep putting it back in the training pen, and then I'll just reach a point where when I have decided to make my decision, then I usually give that dog to somebody as a pet. And then they'll have a new set of patience. Sometimes it'll take off. But I do believe this. I've had this question asked to me. David, would you ever take a dog that's a year old? Would you take a dog that's 2 years old and start it? The answer to that is this. Every dog needs an opportunity. If you give them a chance, they might start. You don't know unless you try. I once had a lady that was in front of me in line years ago at a co-op. She was telling the people that owned the co-op that she had a beagle she had rescued. She found it. She couldn't find the owner. She'd put out signs. She'd done everything she knew to do, and she was just trying to find it a home. She said, it's 2 years old, male. It sleeps with me in bed. I was behind her. I said, hey, ma'am, I couldn't help but overhear your conversation, and I will take that dog if you want to get rid of it. I took the dog. I brought it here. I put it in the starting pen. He had never been given a chance, evidently, because it didn't seem like he had any interest to start with. He was in the training pen for about 2 weeks. He come out blowing and going, turned out to be a fantastic dog. I'm saying all that to say this. We all need to get started doing something. I talk to guys all the time that, I've been owning beagles since I was 12 years old, since I was a kid. My daddy, my granddaddy owned them. I wish that I had started with beagle hounds years ago. I got started later in life with beagles. Yeah, my uncle had some when I was a little kid. We didn't live near him. I went with him a few times. But I never really had the rabbit hunting experience as a child growing up like many of you have had. And so I got involved later in life. And if I go back and change anything, I wish I had beagle hounds years ago. But we all have to start somewhere in our life. And so my point to all that is this. You may be older and say, you know, I didn't really do everything I should have done when I was in my younger years. I wish I had those years back. I wish I could relive those because I didn't really do the best with them. That's okay. That's in the past. Start doing something now so that you can finish strong. You know, when you're in a game, I played sports all growing up. And you know, when you're playing basketball, and there's 4 quarters in high school basketball, nobody really remembers the first half, the first 2 quarters. They might remember a little bit of the 3rd quarter, but that 4th quarter is when things can really change. Same in football. It's how you finish. Might have been ugly, might have had 5 fumbles in the first half, but if they come back out and they win the game in the end of it, it's how it finished. You could start off great and then have all your fumbles in the second half and lose the game. My challenge to you with this part of this segment, and we're definitely not going to finish started dogs. We're going to go in and talk about it in the next video. Will also be about started dogs. But my challenge to you is this. No matter where you are, let's start doing something to make a change. And that start is with us. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there that we can change and start doing. Maybe you need to start changing some things you do with your kids or your wife or just yourself in general, or maybe there's somebody out there that you've not really had the best of relationships with. Everything is a process in starting dogs, and our life is a process. Has to do with timing, has to do with training. To get a dog started, you have to train it to do that. And we have to train ourselves or have someone that helps us with our training. And so I'm going to continue this tomorrow, but this is a process. And I do have a song that I wrote for the church that's called The Process. And in life, there is a process. We have to trust God in our timing. We have to trust God with His timing. We have to trust God with His training, because we have to trust Him with the destiny, and it's all part of eternal things that are going on. So we'll get into that tomorrow when we do the next video on started dogs. Like I said, this is not the end of it. There will be a part 2. Hopefully I'll be able to finish it up in 2. If not, we'll go to 3. Started dogs are my passion, and I urge you right now, today, make a change by starting to do something in your life. It can be gradual, but start to do something. Thank y'all for watching. Have a great day.